That's what we're doing. All right, let's fucking do it.
All right.
Ready?
Let's do it.
Do it.
Hello and welcome to the Rat Nest Podcast, episode number 32 with Shaina Turian.
You dressed up the hay for the first time.
I did the woo hay.
Yeah, the woo hay is different than the hay.
The woo hay flu.
Oh no.
No? Too
Cut
topical?
it, edit it.
Done. Cut it out.
Can't get political.
Done.
What's going on, Shaina? How are you?
I'm great. It's a beautiful Thursday, which means it's almost Friday.
Yeah, at end of the week is the best part of the week.
It's so true, unfortunately.
Wait, hold on. So let's give a little background to why you're so stoked that it's Friday tomorrow. Shaina is not only an amazing artist, she also teaches. So when the weekend's coming up, there's probably a special place in your heart that you hold for Thursdays.
Mama T is ready to take a nap. You know what I mean?
Wine Thursdays. We met years ago. The three of us have kind of been acquaintances, friends, since we were probably younger to really think about it. But definitely like high school, and then after high school, when we were playing in bands and stuff, was when we
started the same circle.
Yeah, started to connect a little bit more. And you've
I saw Jim's name pop up, and I just thought, oh fuck! Remember when we used to play in a band together? That was so long ago.
Yeah, something borrowed, something blue.
What band is this?
Something borrowed.
That was what it's called.
That was it.
Sick.
We've never recorded an album.
That's a placebo reference?
No,
no,
actually, you want to know how the
or
name,
weddings.
Yeah, it was Gaston and Ben. So they decided they wanted something that like put sentiment into it, but that would be really sad if you had the wrong idea of it, basically.
Sick.
So we sat for an entire evening and just came up with band names, throwing out different ideas. Literally sat on the couch and they're writing down the good ones, talking shit about the bad ones.
Hold on, how old were you guys at this point?
Oh fuck,
19?
Maybe 19.
19, yeah. It had to be like 2000 because
We were not old enough to legally drink.
Right,
but you were
10th
drinking.
grade, like 10th grade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I was a Christian kid. I don't know if you remember that. Like in high school and stuff, I didn't really party. I was around people that did, but I didn't really get wasted or anything. That came later in life. But when did you start drinking, or like when did you start partying in high school? Did you party in high school? Because I don't even remember like if you did or not. If you did, it didn't seem like you were messed up when we hung out.
Oh, thank you. Well, because I used to hang out with like a lot of straight edge kids, like, so I was like really like sober but not straight edge, and then I don't know, senior year I just was like, I broke up with my boyfriend. I started smoking weed. I started drinking beers. Like I thought I was very cool. I did a lot of like questionable things and partied a lot. Yeah. I slept in my car in the high school parking lot. Don't tell my students that, but I definitely did.
They're going to watch this and be like, Miss T.
I'm pretty honest with them for the most part.
Well, I know, I mean, like we said, we came from the same circles since way back when, and our circles were never very proper.
I was going to say, we were all scumbags.
We were all kind of scumbags for sure. Playing music, and like our tours that we went on were like what you're saying. We're gonna drive to a different city and sleep in a car in the parking lot somewhere and play a show for 3 days.
And to be honest, I'd still do that.
Right? Sounds kind of fun still.
Yeah.
I was just telling Jim, I was on this trip and we were like, the only thing we had to do was get to the next city and set up camp, and then break down camp, and then go to the next town, right?
Yep.
And you forget how therapeutic that is, in the sense that all you're worried about is what you have to do that day, and not what's due next week, and not the bills this month, and like all that shit. It's like to be 19 again on a tour in a van where you just sleep in the van.
Well, and it's like so weird because you feel so chaotic while it's happening, but you're also just like, yeah, this is really living. And like looking back, and I'm like, how did I survive? Like, how am I alive right now? Because there were some things that I did when I was that age that, like, the internet had just been invented. We didn't know what safety was.
Right. Yeah. When we went on tour, we were still printing out like MapQuest pages.
Yes, yes.
No, but also, like you said, the internet just came out, so we were talking to whoever we could talk to in the theory that they would have a show set up for us
actually who they say
in
they are.
Barstow or whatever.
And then they're like, hey, but you could totally crash on my couch or whatever. And you're like, okay, sure. Let's all just get really hammered with these strangers and hope they don't stab us to death.
Yeah. God, and we did it every time we went to play a show,
constantly.
basically. Yeah.
Was there
everybody was like hooking up with everybody. Not me, but everybody else. Like,
so real quick before we go into that, no, I'm kidding. Let's introduce Shaina. Let's talk about why she's here, what's going on, and what we're talking about, because I think everybody is probably very lost.
Yeah, this is very
yeah.
So far.
Yeah, we were just spending the last few minutes catching up.
Yeah.
Shaina, tell us the rise to your mediocrity in teaching.
Wow.
How dare you? I'm prolific.
Wow.
I'm just fucking with you.
So I don't, what is that even, how do I even answer that?
It was a bad joke.
Yeah, that was a terrible way to ask.
I thought it was funny.
I really want to know what made you decide to get into teaching, because when we were together and we were kind of doing, the last thing I heard about you, it's been, God, like 10 years or more, you were running like a grilled cheese delivery to like the downtown at the bars and stuff, and you were like pedaling your bike delivering sandwiches to drunk people at the local bars.
Yeah, that was really short-lived but really fun.
I honestly, the reason it sticks out in my head is I thought that was the most genius business idea in the world.
People weren't down. We couldn't give grilled cheeses away.
That is so crazy to me.
It's so crazy. So I guess to answer your question is that, like, as we all were, I was like a shitty punk kid who grew into being like a shitty punk adult. And I took like a really long time getting through college. I went to community college for like 10 years. And then I did my undergrad because it was just kind of like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you just do it. And all the while I was just kind of like, I've always made art and made music. And so it was just kind of like, I felt like I'm sure a lot of young people do, which is what I just felt like I was feeling around in the dark. Like, what do I want to do? What do I like? What do I know? And I was,
right.
Yeah. And like, I think that in the back of my mind, it was like, oh, teaching could be fun if like I don't figure something else out, but I don't really know if I want to do that. And but I know that I like making stuff, and I don't think I'll ever make it as an artist, whatever that means, just because I didn't really have the drive to do that at the time. I just liked making. And so I moved to Long Beach because I had friends that moved here, and that's where I live now. Stopped playing in the band that I was playing with, and I was serving, and I was kind of just feeling like pretty directionless. And I wasn't making a lot of stuff, and I was just like, you know what? I don't know. I don't want to be a server forever. I don't like this. It doesn't make me feel like I'm doing a lot. It was fun for sure, but I wasn't like making a difference or whatever. And so I just decided to go back for my credential, and I ended up, like, it turned out when I started teaching, I was making more art than I ever had in my life. My skill has grown so much, and I've got to try so many different things. So it was kind of an extension of that collegiate feeling where I was like always kind of getting to get my hands dirty and make stuff with kids. And that was really rewarding because those were moments that were really important to me when I was in high school. I took art classes all 4 years that I was in high school, and always like felt accepted, and like I got to be like a weirdo, and I liked that. And I'm glad that now, like, I'm 5 years in and I get to create that experience for young people. So that's the short version of that.
No, it's rad as shit. And it's someone that comes from a similar background, and I've been like a career, like, kind of hospitality guy for the last 15 years, working in restaurants and stuff. I was never wasn't compelling to make art because I was doing okay financially, because serving and bartending and stuff does pay the bills, and it's therapeutic, it's fine. But when you go back into when you said you went back to get your credential, and that's when like the uncomfortableness probably sat in a little bit, and that's when you make more shit. It's almost like a nervous like reaction to like create, because it gets your mind off of worrying about the unknown.
Right. Well, and especially because they push you so much to be experienced in a lot of different things, because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, in public school you might be asked to teach anything, so your specialty might be painting but you might have to teach photo, or your specialty might be ceramics but you have to teach digital, and you're just trying to get a job. And so it was kind of one of those things where they really pressed the idea of learning all kinds of things. And because I'm a person who's always kind of like, I haven't never gravitated towards one thing. It was really, I guess, cathartic for me, because I was like, oh, I'm going to try woodworking this semester and let's see how that goes. My student teaching experience was the same.
I was like gonna introduce you as like a multifaceted artist in the sense that you do sculpt, you paint, you make music, like you've done a lot of this stuff since we were kids.
Yeah.
Is there something that developed later on, or I'd say like in the last 5 or 6 years, that has kind of like took you to a different work, like woodwork or something? Like, have you pursued anything that's like new?
Well, I would say that like for sure ceramic work has like kind of taken over my life. I think that so many people that get into ceramics either do it just because it's like fun, like as a craft, or they do it like once in high school and they like it, but they never do it again. Um, and I've been lucky enough to like, I tried it out in college. I really liked it, but I kind of just like didn't end up doing it again for a long time. And then when I started my credential program, I ended up really gravitating to a ceramics teacher who worked in Huntington, and he invited me to, because you have to do like a lot of observation hours basically, where you're spending a lot of time in a classroom.
Right.
And so and getting signed off, so I ended up like spending tons of time in his classroom, and then he asked me to do what's called student teaching, which is where you're essentially working for free at a high school, teaching 3 classes. And so because of that, I got so to really like engage with that medium, and then I've just like fallen in love with it, and my like learning about it has really taken off. And especially now that I'm teaching it myself in high school, I piloted a ceramics program, and that's, I think, the thing that I work with the most for sure now. I don't paint very much anymore, not because I don't like it, I feel like craft is such a huge thing right now. Like people love buying stuff that it's handmade, and it's one of those things where it's like I don't have to feel as attached anymore. Where I think I used to make artwork that I was so attached to that I couldn't get rid of it, and then it just like piled up.
Okay.
Now it's like, well,
Absolutely.
shit breaks all the time, and you make something and you sell it and it's gone, and then you make another one, and it's kind of really released me in a lot of ways.
I think it's rad that you were able to, because of the place that you were in your life at the time, choose art as a teaching path, and
Yeah.
now you get to shape young people's lives and the idea that they have towards art every single day. That is probably an artist's, that's what every artist strives for, right? Anytime we make music, we make a painting, all we want to do is affect someone's life. We want to change their life or make them feel something. And you get to do it like directly, like hands in the clay, mold it as it comes up, and get to kind of shape these kids' views of art and what it is and what it means and all of that.
Tell them they're cool or they're not cool.
Great.
Well, it's so funny. I mean, I have a couple things to say to that, which is that like it's so funny how, first of all, I didn't know how much people fucking hate teachers until I became one. It's crazy. It's crazy. But also how little people respect art teaching, because they're like, oh, you make a macaroni craft necklace. That's great. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I do so much in my classroom. And it is that. It's like, I've heard about practices that other teachers have where I'm like, please retire. What are you doing? Like, please. Because, I heard about a teacher who was literally every day just giving coloring pages of master paintings and having the kids color them with colored pencils. And that's not what art class is. Your high school students need a place to explore and be themselves. And maybe what they make isn't like excellent. Maybe it is. It just, it should be a place to play and like and become a creative problem solver, which is really what we press in our classes. And I'm really lucky to have a colleague who is very passionate about that as well. Shout out Emily. But she is like super, we're both really about like, art isn't about how well you can render something. It's about how much you can explore ideas and let your thoughts come out of you into like a whole new thing. And it's kinesthetic, and it's so much more than just drawing a perfect picture of your favorite celebrity, you know? So I am really glad that I get to do that in my classroom.
Awesome.
I think the older you get, if you continue to do art, that comes through a lot more, in the sense that when we're young, we're striving to be like what we think is the best example of something, whether it's illustration or a painting. It's like, oh, these lines have to be perfect. This looks like dog shit, whatever.
Yeah.
And the older you get and the more comfortable you become with like yourself and what you're doing, you're just like, no, this is like the idea I'm trying to convey. And it's a
Yeah.
lot nicer, it could be a lot messier, and it still speaks to the same level like what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And like we're really trying to push the idea of concept with our kids because it's so much more important. Like Basquiat didn't paint perfect, beautiful portraits. He painted these really chaotic, emotional, giant works. So like why would I force my kid to try to become the best pencil drawer of an eyeball when there's so much more out there to be explored?
Absolutely. And I mean that kind of shit, like yeah, that whole scene in like whatever late 80s 90s early 90s New York, like with Keith Haring and Basquiat, is like, I mean he's gone before that, is probably like 70s
Yeah.
80s, but the idea that fine art didn't have to look pristine. It didn't have to look
Yeah.
finished. It could be a messy painting. Is the, I don't know, the antithesis, or I mean not the antithesis, the beginning of like what we see now in like a David Cho or someone that's considered just like
Yeah.
a very fine artist. His pieces are worth millions of dollars, but they're not refined
They're
in a
chaotic at
stance to
halftime,
like
right?
a lot
Yeah.
of people look at it and be like, that's garbage.
Right.
Yeah. So actually, I have a funny story, which is like yesterday, a student who I have in my AP class, um, she's a really cool kid, but her drawings are really like off the wall. Like she has no like filter. She just likes to just like draw these really chaotic, lots of like shapes and lines, and they're really kind of psychedelic and stuff. And she walked into my classroom and she was crying, and it was because she was drawing in her class right before, and the teacher walked up to her and said, "Why are you drawing that? Somebody your age shouldn't be drawing something that looks like that." And we were like, what does that even mean? Like, first of all, it wasn't like violent or anything like weird or upsetting or concerning. It was just unique. It looked like, again, like a dream. It was like, very psychedelic, very like line heavy. And she just was so like heartbroken that somebody would say that to her when she was just like exploring an idea. And, um, and that's where it's like scary that there are so many people in the world that have a mindset of like they just don't know what art is. They haven't been exposed to it. They don't understand it, and they're just really closed off to it. And that's a bummer.
That reminds me of something you said just a moment ago about how art is creative problem solving, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not just when you're creating the art, it's as the artist too, because that's a problem that you come across.
Yeah.
Is people that are going to judge you or say, oh, you're too old to be drawing like that or whatever. You
Yeah.
actually have to figure out a way to deal with that problem.
Yeah.
Because as an artist, you're going to inevitably come up against those people that are going
Right,
to
like,
tell you
how
you're
do you
not
for
good
sure.
or you
Yeah,
suck or whatever. And that creative problem solving in art, you struck a chord with me when you said that, because I really haven't ever thought of it as that there is a huge element of art that comes to problem solving, and in
Oh, absolutely.
every aspect, right?
Yeah. And so it's like even if you never pursue it, just having that experience of making, I think, is one of the most important. It helps people become more well-rounded. And that's why even like a lot of law schools actually require students to have art history background and or art background because it helps you solve problems and it really it grows your mind in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I mean, especially like I sit around and think about like ceramics in that way where it's like, okay, if I was gonna make a cup that's like square shaped and I was to attach the things that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's all about like building something and how those things are gonna work and how I can make it like stay together.
Well, I mean, that's the idea, is like taking something from an idea to something tangible or like a physical form,
Yeah.
or, now digital, something you can look at and perceive, whatever, but taking it from nothing to something. And with like you said, it's interesting that you said law specifically is kind of like encouraging that, is that when you get a case, as a lawyer, it might not necessarily be anything. It might be the thing you have to
Yeah.
the most to get it to where you want to end up at. And
Yeah.
you have a straightforward thought process on how to do that and one way of thinking, it's only going to work so many times before it doesn't.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
yeah, so it's like, I don't know, just being, I guess I'm spoiled in the sense that I was always just working in restaurants, and making art was always like my side project, my like thing I did like over here. So I never had to directly try to relate the two, even though I'm like, bartending is an art. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
it is and it isn't. But as far as real life problem solving or getting from point A to point B in like something that's has nothing to do with a like an art project is interesting to me, that the two could be so closely related.
Well, and I think again, it's like that's why I think that all students should have a well-rounded education, because that's just going to make you a better person. You can understand, but art is so cultural and contextual, and so especially when you're teaching it, when you're talking about it with young people, like moving beyond that, like that old idea of like, well, we just learned about like Da Vinci and Van Gogh and Michelangelo and they call it a day. It's like looking at how much art has shaped culture over time, looking at how graphic design has really changed the way we see the world, and like, you know, but on the flip side of it, I could argue that bartending is an art. You're working with flavors and food, and you are managing complex situations and understanding like a workflow. The same as art is how you have to manage a workflow behind a bar. You know what I mean? Like it's all, it helps you grow your brain, like in general.
Yeah,
So
I'm not dogging on bartending. I'm not
no,
dogging
no,
on the
I know
service.
you're not.
I mean, that's been my
I'm
whole.
just making connections.
I'm just saying, like, to me, typically the people that say like this is such an art form and like this is so artistic and like and they get really like deep into it. Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
it seems disingenuous. I'm like, all right, I did the same job as you, and I'm an artist. Like, I get it, but you don't have to, you know, preach about. I don't know. I say anyone takes themselves too seriously.
Come
What do we have
with
here? Are you
me.
presenting us a glass? Okay. This is how we get down on a Thursday.
Just a little Chardonnay.
Podcasts are for Thursdays.
You know it's Thursday.
Thursdays.
Now, you've been in Long Beach for how many years now?
Oh my gosh. I just hit my seventh year. Sorry, my seventh year.
That's crazy. Because
Yeah.
I was saying, I haven't seen you since like the days of like Maxwell Street and the Calicos and like that whole thing. And I was like, that had to have been 10 years ago now. Like,
Yeah, that was
Yeah, it's been a long time.
super wild.
2011.
Yeah, I moved here in 2014. So I just had my 7th anniversary in October, at the beginning of this month.
Okay.
So what I've only been to Long Beach like a little bit. My knowledge on it is kind of like slim. I know it's like a small scene with a big name, right? Like it's like Long Beach, everyone knows that. It's LA, it's this, but Long Beach, like proper, it kind of has its own little groove going on, right?
For sure. I mean, I would say that there's like a pretty rich like music and art culture here. I think that it's kind of splintered right now, but not in a bad way. It's just that like they're for sure like niche people who know each other, which is funny because it is a small city. Like it's a small big city. It's 500,000 people, I think. So we're pretty large, but there's like pockets like anything. So I'd say that there's a lot of people that kind of like work together. We do like Fourth Fridays and have like cool like pop-up events with that. And of course like COVID made it tough, but we were just in an art show with a cool brand called Polymer. They put on art shows from time to time, and I think this is their first one back since COVID. And we were in that last month. I say we, it's my partner Jay and I, and that was awesome. I think they had 30 something artists in it, and it was benefiting the Surfrider Foundation. So there were a ton of people. I mean, there's definitely stuff going on here that's cool, but I don't know that we draw like a lot of people from out of town, unfortunately, and I hope that changes.
I think that's what I kind of meant like a little bit in the sense I did 2 shows, I believe, at Harville's like That's in Long Beach, right? I'm not tripping out.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like in the downtown, like kind of promenade area.
yeah,
It's like an underground little venue club, and the people that came out, it was 100% locals, and the guys that were playing in the bands, I knew had like bigger like fan bases in that, but
yeah,
Long Beach just seems kind of like it's in the area where it's not a hassle to get to. It's just like a adventure, like a trek to get to.
The
Because
405 sucks.
there's no good way to get there from.
but it's so funny because I feel like that's not true. Like I laugh because it takes like 30 minutes to get from most of LA to here. And it's as long as you leave at the right time, it's about an hour from Redlands or San
Really, that
Bernardino.
damn.
See,
Yeah.
I've come from Redlands and went to Long Beach, and it was like 35-40 minutes to get to the 405, and then an hour and a half to get like from the interchange of the
Yeah,
405
sometimes you just hit pockets.
it was just dead stop
Yeah.
so often.
And that could be said the same thing about like the IE, especially now. It's like there's more people that are living here than the freeways kind of provide for. So when
Yeah.
in a rush hour setting or anything, it is like that stop traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we never, maybe when we were kids, like we just didn't notice it because we weren't driving or something. I don't know.
Oh no, it's so much worse to drive from here to like I would never leave for Redlands or Riverside at 3 o'clock on a Friday because it'll take you 3 hours to get there. Like it's so crazy. And so for sure, I think that that's true. I think that there's like more traffic going to and from, but I don't know. My mom comes out here all the time. It's not really that crazy. I just think that it is like one of those things where it's like a little bit far. We're like near everything, and it actually is like a lot like Redlands in a lot of ways, which I think is such an easy transition, and why a lot of people from Redlands move here and then leave here, or whatever. But it's great because it is like a small town feel, but also it's like I can get to LA in 30 minutes for an event or whatever, and I can drive to Orange County in 30 minutes if you know what I mean? Like it's close to everything. I'm 5 minutes from the water walking pretty much. And like, it's very underestimated, I think.
There you go.
So
That's probably the word I was looking for, is like underestimated, because it seems like a small town vibe in a big city. It's like that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
everyone knows Long Beach. It's like Snoop Dogg, but
Yeah. And that's what's really funny too, is it's like, yeah, it does certainly have a name for itself in like that, and that Snoop Dogg is from here and he talks about it in his music and he went to Poly High School, but there are rivals. So
drink 40s on 21st and Lewis, or
gin and juice, bro.
I drive past 21st and Lewis all the time. So
back
So
up.
let me call back just a moment. You're teaching art and you got into that kind of as your profession, but you are obviously creating a lot of art right now too.
yeah.
I noticed like you're doing a lot of sculpting. I saw that dog that you did recently. Super dope. Really cool. Have you been getting mostly into sculpting, or are you doing canvases and papers and stuff like that as well?
Well, so I've been doing for probably like 5 years now. I've been doing these kind of like blind contour portraits that I'm sure if you go to my Instagram, they're kind of all over it.
Picasso portraits.
Yeah. And which is like it's funny because it's such a I think it's probably from that silly book from the 70s called like drawing from the right side of the brain or whatever. It's a learning tool that a lot of people do in beginning drawing classes and things like that, which is called blind contour, so you don't look at the paper while you draw. And
you look at the subject while you're drawing and not at your hand while you're drawing it.
That's right. And so I kind of got into like as a selling point for people to come to my art show openings when I had like little pieces and stuff. I would say, okay, and I'm also going to do like 5 minute 5 minute $5 drawings. And so I started doing it that way, where it was like, and I'd end up doing like 30 in a night, where I just did them in 5 minutes and I'd watercolor them really fast. But the more I started doing it, the more it became like, it obviously took more than 5 minutes and they became a lot more complex and people really gravitated towards them. So I've been doing those like kind of on and off as like a live thing / just like I do them from home from pictures. And so I do that, but other than that, I don't paint a lot anymore. It's mostly all sculpture and ceramic work. I like I said, I do like a lot of you know, like I make coasters. You know what I mean? Like
It's like more
I make fruit bowls. Like,
yeah, it's like more craftsman-ish than it would be like a painter. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
more
yeah,
just creating like tangible, like usable objects.
yeah. And you know, the one thing that really like so many people were like, COVID was so hard on teaching and all this stuff, and of course it absolutely was. But the positive of it was that I had so much time to learn my craft, and because you know I sent Clay home, I taught my lesson, we'd be on Zoom, they'd be working on their thing, and I'd be working on my thing, and so it was like they got to see that I was still actually creating, and I was like sitting there and working on my own projects, but I also had a ton of time to work on my own projects. So I really got to learn a lot of like different techniques and processes, and so like I would say like the past year and a half I've gotten really so much better at that at the ceramic craft. So and learned so much about it too.
I'm curious, what when you are teaching from home, like doing remote Zooms, and there's clay involved. What kind of projects were you having the kids do? Like what
So
lends itself to that platform? Because that seems kind of fucking wild.
yeah, so I spent the entire year pretty much in my classroom. I use it as a studio space instead of working from home. I found that I worked better when I was in a more structured setting anyway. Um, but I basically was sending, you know, blocks of clay home with students. Um, I thought about doing air dry clay, but it's much more expensive, and of course it dries out, so it's not a very uh, a conducive thing to teenagers because if they don't keep it sealed really tight, it'll be, you
Which
know,
no,
gone.
no one would.
Worthless,
There'd be
yeah.
2 kids that kept it sealed.
Yeah. So I had to kind of change my grading practice. I graded specifically on whether they created the project, not whether they finished the project, because for a lot of them it was difficult to like come pick up clay and then, you know, take it home, make the project, drop it off again. So I had them. They made a vase. They made a pinch pot creature, which is like a just a little sculpture of of an animal. I had them do a box, which came out really they boxes came out really cool. We did what else did we do? I have to use my brain. Uh, I don't know. I think we did like 5 projects total over the course of last year, and then I peppered in other things. Like they did a collage, but that included like a vase in it, and they did drawings of like what's called a shakti, which is like an Egyptian sculpture.
Oh, dope.
So we definitely did a couple things that were like related to ceramics that weren't actually building.
How were the
Um,
results from the kids that like on the clay stuff? Like, did a lot of them really like get into it, or was it just kind of like
Yeah, a lot of them did. It actually was funny because I remember like the first time we like built something, a kid, these couple girls were like, their hands were all messy, but they were like typing on the chat and they were like, honestly, this is really fun. It's like, you know, one girl's like, I'm doing this on my mom's bed. I shouldn't be. And like, you know, it's like, oh my God, don't mess up your mom's bed. She's gonna be so mad. So, you know, of course, like the amount of kids that actually dropped their finished things up, dropped their finished projects off and picked them up and glazed them and then dropped them off again was pretty low. But absolutely, there were kids that got finished projects and were really excited. Oh, we made a mug and we made ornaments. Those were the other things.
Oh, nice, nice. The high school mug, I think, is something that no matter what age group you're in, you still have that sitting somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Nicole has her, it
Well,
says the Get Up Kids, and
Of course
it has
it
a bunch of
does.
pencils in it. Yeah. Sick.
oh, I made the most insane mug when I was in high school. My mom still has it in her like her little like extra bedroom or whatever. It's the ugliest thing in the world. And I from time to time I'll take a picture of it and post it and be like, wow, this is where it started from the bottom. You know what I mean? Like
Started from the bottom now.
I know we touched on it, but can we talk about like how much of a bleeding heart artist you were in like high school? Like,
Oh my God,
we all
yeah.
wanted to be on your level. I don't know if that's
what are you talking about? What does that even mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Market Night Shaina, man. You used to sit out there every Thursday.
Dude,
play
you're-
your acoustic.
you were just like out there and vulnerable and like playing songs in front of people and making art, and it was like, fuck, this chick is wild. Like, I don't know. It's intimidating.
Tell me all about that because I felt so like not cool.
That's crazy because everyone thought you were the coolest kid. Like, I think our perceptions of ourselves are, so different than maybe what other people see. It's
Yeah.
the inward struggle. But yeah, dude, we were like, dude, she has pink hair, blue hair next week. She's playing guitar with strangers. Making paintings. I don't know. It seemed rad. Seemed rad to me.
Yeah. It's like it's funny because I look back on all that. So, I mean, I had a lot of people back then to tell me like that I was intimidating or that I was scary or whatever. And I think I was so not confident in myself that I probably put on like this hard like whatever, or that like I thought I was really cool, but I just didn't. I was like I thought everybody else was way cooler than me. And I think that like too being a girl, I think it made it kind of hard because like you're always trying to like balance that thing of like, well, I'm not just a girl who likes the guys. I'm my own thing. You know what I mean? Like it's like always trying to prove yourself and feel like you're on the same level as everybody else. Just like a weird thing.
It's a tough thing to do, especially in the cinema career. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I know I'm guilty of kind of judging you from the persona that you like that rough exterior back in the day when
Yeah.
we knew each other, because I thought, like Matt said, I thought you were the cool chick, like the chick that was Miss Redlands, and you came off as like fuck you, and I was like, oh fuck you too.
I thought you hated me, Jim. You hated me.
We have a rough history. I know that band we were talking about, that was, and I'll go on record right now on the podcast and say I was a young asshole that thought I had it all figured out and obviously did not. Like who I was back then and who I am now, I'm sorry for what we went through.
Well, I know all the people that were in that band with you guys, and none of you had it figured out. It's okay.
No.
No. Dude, thank you for turning on lights. I thought you were gonna bleed into the darkness the rest of
No, I know. I was like, oh, this is weird. And like also my overhead light for some reason like was like, oh, it's dark, it's time to fade. Like, no, that's not how that works.
I was gonna ask to cut real quick, but I was like, you know what? This is just flowing. So well.
No, it's gonna go.
Yeah.
You're just a voice in the darkness by the end of it.
No, but in reality, Shaina, it was exactly what you said. It was that tough exterior that you were putting on, and I was so naive to emotional intelligence that I'm like, oh, she's the cool redhead chick. She's the one that like she's the cool chick, and she's kind of being a bitch to me. But it was because I'm being a
might have been
to her because I think she's the cool chick and I'm being an asshole to her. Like, dude, we just butted heads, and I've looked back at it a few times. Like,
dude, that's so funny.
What was it?
And it's funny to think that the relationships when we're 18, 19 have that effect on us in our 30s. But we still do think about that shit. I'm like, damn, did I wrong that person? They don't know who I am anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think too, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think so much of it, like as a woman or a girl at the time, like trying to play music, trying to make art, trying to do all these things that are like kind of boys clubby things. Like I didn't ever want to like, I wanted to come off as like I said, like an equal and not like a girl that was just like trying to hook up or trying to do these things. Even though I probably wanted those things too. I probably had a crush on everybody. I don't know. And like, it's just always uncomfortable to like, I want to be respected for what I do. Don't look at my boobs, but kind of do. But oh God, no, don't. And you know what I mean? Like, it's like all that stuff where,
With dealing with like your students and stuff, do you come across it like, or I don't know how deep this is gonna get.
Yeah, I was gonna say, watch the next sentence.
But like, no, do kids like confide in you like their, I don't know, their worries, like the stuff they can't talk to their parents about? Because I feel like especially art teachers, the one or two that I connected with throughout my life, I was, I felt like a friendship with them, and like I was able to like speak freely and tell them what was going on. Like, do you get that? Or
for sure. I mean, I think it's funny because so much of like when we talk about as teachers is like, oh, they say that you're just gonna like teach a subject and like that's gonna be the thing, but really there's so many other things too. Like you're a teacher, passionate about your content area, but you're also a psychologist and you're a social worker and you're somebody trying to figure out where these kids are, and you're doing all these other things. So like for sure, on a personal level, like there's of course kids that I connect with, and I think that's like one of my strongest suits as an educator is my ease of connection with my students. and like it's hard because you get really close to kids and then they're gone or something happens, or whatever, and then you just don't really get to know, and I think that's hard. But like I have a student who I've had, well, I actually this year I have a lot of seniors and I had them when they were freshmen, and so it's like funny because we all kind of go like, oh my God, we're all gonna graduate together, like, and they're all just like so stoked because it's like, oh, we had you when we first came and now we have you when we're leaving, and Miss T, and like, I have this kid who I always think about, Talia, who's she's just a psychopath. Like I love her. She's so funny. Like, but I had her as a freshman. She was always in my classroom as a 10th grader, and then COVID hit and I didn't hear anything about her. I was so worried about her. It's like, it's so weird how connected you get to these kids. And even, it's like they knew me, like she knew about Jay when I first started dating him and was like, oh, well, what's he like? What's he do? Like, oh, he like sent me breadsticks for Valentine's Day, like their first Valentine's Day we had. It was a whole joke, but like, so she's still 4 years later or 3 years later is like, so is he gonna send you breadsticks this year? What's gonna happen? Like, just like, so they like know me, they know my life, and I know theirs, and so yeah, it's like for sure I connect with a lot of kids, and some, some of that has nothing to do with whether or not they like art, and everything to do with the fact that they just enjoy being in my classroom, uh, and some kids I never connect with, and I don't really know much about them, and they're just kind of that way, and they might connect with their English teachers. You know what I mean? So,
right. And you're not going to connect with every kid, but I know for a
yeah.
fact going like through high school, there was those certain teachers that had a huge impact. And
Oh, yeah.
when you have 6 periods a day and 30 kids per class, just the numbers alone say you're
Of course, yeah.
positively impact or be that person in a few, or if not a dozen of those kids' lives.
Right. Well, and then also like it's really cool. I'm really lucky I get to be the advisor for our GSA club, our Gender Sexuality Alliance. And so, those are kids that might not even be in my classroom, but that I have like a really cool connection with. And it's like yesterday they were like talking about whether or not they were out with their families, and I just got to be like privy to that conversation and like kind of get to know about them in that way. And like, it's special. It's like kids are so weird, and they're so like people's response is always like, oh, you're a high school teacher, that must be really hard, high schoolers. Ugh. And it's like, no, they're so cool and weird, and they're just exploring, and you know what I mean, like their brains are so strange.
Yeah, but also they're dealing with like that, like if they don't feel normal and they're feeling out of their skin, or if they know they're gay or bi or anything, that it's such a hard conversation to have with anyone at that age. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how you feel inside, it's like there's so much outside pressure from the world. Maybe it's changed, but I feel like it's just such a heavy thing. Like you're saying, like the relationship between your parents, and like if they're religious, or what they're gonna think if you let them know this is how I'm feeling.
Yeah, well, and especially like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to add to what he's saying. The fact that you are there to be able to kind
it
of
must be like magical.
This experience for them, or kind of at the very least have their back.
Or just listen.
Yeah, that's got to be huge.
Well, the thing that's really awesome is like how much our school site is like really trying to like harbor a culture of like acceptance, which is really cool. Like LGBTQIA History Month this month, which I didn't know. I've recently found out. And our ASB has put together like activities for all week for those students. And so like on Wednesday, a bunch of our kids like went up and talked about being out and like how accepted they feel on the campus. And tomorrow we're having a pride parade. And I'm just like so proud of them for feeling comfortable and for like saying those things, because that might mean that somebody else who wasn't ready to say those things can, or at least knows that there's, a space for them to. And so it's like, for me to just get to be a part of that is like really special to me, like, and I'm just happy that like I work at a place that has like really embraced that group of people, and so that's been really awesome.
And I'm only speaking from my own experience, and like me and Jim went to the same high school.
Shane went to, didn't you?
No,
oh, no, you were Rev, huh?
Yeah, she went across town, baby.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I know G didn't give a shit about that community. Yeah. It had a small club. It wasn't celebrated. It was a few kids, but I, what I mean. Like it's cool that those kids are getting a platform to be like, hey, like it's okay to feel this way, and it's okay to be yourself, and like celebrate that, and
Yeah,
don't live in the shadows, because
for
it's so
sure.
important to be like the kid that just like is so scared to be themselves.
Well, and that
Yeah.
really speaks a lot to what it was when we were in high school back, what, 19, 18 years
Only,
ago,
yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
only 15
to
years ago
where
or
it is
whatever.
now, to where literally at San G when we were there, or even at Rev, they wouldn't have allowed a pride parade. Like, you can have the club, you can meet on campus,
Yeah.
we'll allow that, but we're not going to let you make a stink because you're still kind of in this side of
Well, and I just imagine like all the jokes that kids would have said and all that, and then none of that is acceptable anymore. And it's really awesome. Like we did like a homecoming thing and we sold like pronouns pins and we sold out of them. Like we sold like so many kids were like, yes, because like, it's like almost on trend to be like in the know about this stuff, which is awesome though, because it's like, well, great. Like it's on trend to be like proactive and progressive and accepting and so like especially with our community, which is like primarily Black and brown students, which is a lot of Catholicism and religion, and so the fact that like our kids are so open and affirming is just really like special and exciting, and I'm just really really proud of them.
That's rad.
let me just say, having a woke generation is way better than having a pogs generation like we had.
I mean, Pog's generation is like
Rule.
it's not that cool actually.
Influence that had a huge impact on our lives. I think being woke
Yeah.
way more influential than pogs ever were. Because all I remember
Sure.
is Bag and Berry and trying to steal slammers from kids.
Well, I think too, it's so many things that like kind of lead to feeling like one way or the other, in the sense that we grew up in an area that is pretty rough, and
Yeah.
especially when we were growing up into high school, there was a lot of gangs, there's a lot of like be tough, be a man, you know what I mean? So it's like there was this whole generation of kids that even they didn't give a shit how they felt because they were told to feel a certain way.
Well, and I mean, our school is really similar to Sanji in a lot of ways, and those things are still absolutely happening, and it's hard. It's really hard to see. It's really like sad. So, but the best you can do is just like try to be accepting and understanding, and like try, wrap those kids, like wrap your heart around those kids, and like try to make them feel like that's not their only option. But it's not always the case. It doesn't,
Yeah.
So we've talked about your art as far as like the process of creating these kids, or at the very least their creative brain, like how you're having an influence on that. How would you say that working with the kids affects your own personal creativity or the art that you create? Because that has to be just a visceral emotional experience all day long that you never gotten before, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess really more than anything, like I said before, I'm constantly like getting my hands dirty, which makes it so that I get time to create and have ideas and like kind of do this stuff. And like I know like it's upsetting because there's a lot of art teachers that don't make stuff anymore. Like I was in a meeting a couple months ago where it was like I was with like teachers from all over our district, and a lot of them were like, "Well, I don't have time to make art," and I was like, "What? That's all we do." Like, and like kids inspire me and I inspire them, and like so sometimes like even if I'm not finishing something, I'm still working with them to create something. I also teach 3 sections of digital art this year, which is not my forte. Like it's not my main thing, and I've taught digital art every other year since I started teaching, and so it's like I'm constantly exploring that medium because I am teaching it to other people, and it's not the thing that I'm the best at. You know what I mean? So I'm
with it. As you're developing with it as you're teaching, you're like, all right, well, I'm figuring it out kind of because I'm not as comfortable with this as the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I think that because of that, again, it's like always exploring. Like a couple years ago, I did a collage project, and then I got really into making collage just because it was like, oh yeah, that was fun. I forgot about that. And so it just kind of depends. When I made boxes with my students last year, I ended up making like a bunch of demo boxes, and then I ended up doing like 10 of them. And so it's like it almost like breeds this like series that wasn't intentional, but then it's like, well, I showed them how to make it. Now I get to do whatever I want with this thing. And so like I ended up making like quite a few different ones, and they all kind of ended up different, and different ones, and they all ended up different.
Crazy.
Oh.
Excuse me. Sorry. But so I guess like the main answer to that question is because I'm constantly having to kind of change what I'm doing because of what they're doing. It gets me always kind of like making something new and re-exploring.
Refreshing.
And I've never understood teachers who run the same curriculum every single year. So I've always done something different I've never done the same year's worth of projects 2 years in a row. I also haven't never taught the same thing 2 years in a row. So because of that, I'm like constantly having to come up with new things, and there's so much out there. Like
with creating curriculum and like the projects that you're going to go throughout the year, have you found any that just fail, like on all aspects, or like no one has a good timing? You know what I mean? Like, thought this would be really cool, but no one liked it.
I know the answer. Well, okay, I can think of one that like still some of these kids that I have this year talk about from my first year with them, because they hated it so much. There's a couple. So in my first year at the school I'm at now, I taught 6 sections of like beginning art, and I got really gung ho. Like so there was 2 projects that I went for that they were like, what? No. So like one of them was like, they had to make a portfolio, like, so it's like the big railroad board, you know what I'm talking about? Like a big piece of poster board, and you like fold it in half, and then you fold the bottom up so that you keep all your work in it, right?
It's like exactly, it's a portfolio. For those of you who don't know what is up, go look it up.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, this was like a big thing that high school teachers have done for years, and this is the only year I did it because Jesus Christ. So I decided that my whole thing was they're gonna make the thing, and then they were gonna like make a pattern. So they had to do like an abstract pattern, and then they had to use like like carbon paper where you like can trace it, and so I had them do that, but instead of using carbon paper, they just had to like put pencil on the back and transfer it. But they transferred it to make like a radial design, so it repeated itself all the way around. In theory, it was very cool. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. I'm right now. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and fucking do this. Right now. Yeah.
It took them so long to color these things in. Like I can't even tell you. They were so mad about it. It took because they were large and they were using colored pencil, and like I was having them use watercolor colored pencils. So like if they wanted to, they could like dip them in water or like paint over it, and it would. But then some of the paper started tearing because it's not meant to be used for that, and it was just like. It's just a nightmare. They were just like, so even I have a kid this year who was just like, Miss T, do you remember the portfolio? That was like my nightmare. I never finished it. You know what I mean? Like several of them were like, I never finished it. So that was one. And then the other one was that I tried really hard to integrate like digital art and like our drawing class. And my whole thing was that I was going to have them do like an Obama hope poster sort of thing. Like I wanted them to make their own message, like we are the future, we are whatever, So I had them like take a portrait, and I had them like colorize it so that, and like make it look like a stencil. But then I had them do them really large. And again, don't make your kids do stuff that's like 16 by 20. It's too big for them. Too big. They will lose interest. And they were just like, why?
Dude, I'm that kid. I'm like, I'll work small. I feel it.
Yeah. So, and then it was like, I had a bunch of them finish, and I like hung them up in like this main window. And so all the teachers were like, oh my God, they're so cool. Thank you so much for doing that. We love them. But then all the kids were like, why did you do that? Why aren't they up on the wall? Why can everybody see this? I'm so mad. Like they were just pissed, and they were like, when's it gonna come down? So they stayed up for like 2 years, and then finally took them down. But so those were my 2 that were like, ugh.
That's fucking funny, dude.
Yeah.
Pissing off high school kids is very funny.
It's almost like you do that every year because you found out that it works.
Yeah, because you know the reaction that'll get.
Oh yeah, every year I'm trying. I mean, today was hilarious because I was like, okay, I just decided we were gonna make skulls because we needed like some downtime because of the firing process for ceramics. So it was like all of them were in between the last project. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna throw clay at them and they're gonna watch a video and they're gonna make a skull. And watching these kids like try to do it while watching a video because it wasn't like this intuitive thing that we've already done before was so funny. And it was so cute because they're like, no, 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 bro, you got to do this. Hang on. Like, and they were like, take it. And they like show them. And it's like, and it's like, so, cause I didn't teach them. I just was like, here, watch this video and try to do exactly how she does it. And they were just like, my skull looks stupid, bro.
That's a perfect
Millennial.
yeah, millennial accent. Just, my skull looks stupid, bro.
No, it's we have this like table full of boys that sits in the back, and they're just like all like passing them around, like, why is yours so flat? Like, so it's
Bro, you gotta do better, bro.
Do you ever laugh at shit that you shouldn't laugh at? Like when the kids say something?
all the time. All the time.
Hey, don't say that.
I sat at like a table with my AP kids the other day, and this girl goes, Miss T, do you ever wish that you could just like not work and have a lot of money instead? And I was like, absolutely. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah. If somebody offered me that, I'd leave you right now. I'd leave you guys in this classroom. Goodbye. And she was like, Miss T, that's so mean. I'm like, yeah. Well, somebody's offering me a lot of money to do nothing. Like, I'm gonna do that. You
Yeah,
know, like,
I'm looking out for Miss T here.
We're all humans.
yeah.
We
You think I
all-
want to sit in here with you?
Yeah, dude,
So speaking of making lots of money, are you selling any art? Like, are you creating art? Do you have anything up, like doing shows or anything like that?
Yeah, right now, I mean, so I've been in like the lull of getting back into a real school year, so it's been kind of like on the back burner a little bit. I've been mostly doing commission work, so when people hit me up and ask for specific things, like I've been doing that. But I do like, it's holiday season coming up, so I'm like definitely planning on like A, hopefully getting a lot of commissions, and B, doing a lot of holiday markets. So I need to like, hey, what do the people want? Tell me.
What do you
Because
what is it kind of commission work you're doing?
so like right now I'm doing a couple kind of funny things. I mean they're all gifts, so I don't know if I should talk about them, but they're like different ceramics projects. I recently did a couple wall hangings for people because I was kind of doing a lot of like tattoo flash on ceramic work lately. Like that was kind of something that because
like
it combines like
Right.
yeah.
That's real cool.
So I really like to work with what's called underglaze, which is like gives you the opportunity to just be more painterly in ceramic work. And so I was doing like a lot of tattoo flash, and I did like those Burt Grimm crying hearts, and I had a really good friend of mine commission me to do one of those for their house, and then so I made a couple, and that was really cool. And then I made that mixed media, and I added like a little bit of like chain to it, and so I'm kind of like interested in doing more stuff like that, and making more like wall hanging, so more things that are art for art's sake, but with that specific medium. But I don't know. I was talking to Jay about like, do I make mugs? I know everybody wants mugs all the time, and everybody likes ashtrays, and so it's just like what to do. And I would prefer to just have people be like, I need this for Christmas, make it for me, and I'll be like, okay, like
Yeah, done.
I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but with the aesthetic that I've seen, like in your work, especially with the clay, it's messy. It's not highly refined. It's the idea behind it, the paint or the glazes and like the artwork that is a part of it suits it so well. And like you have it, just, I mean, you've been doing it long enough where you have a keen eye of like what looks good when it doesn't necessarily look perfect.
And a great personal style at that. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I like everybody. There's so much out there in the world right now with like, Instagram and all that stuff where it's like, of course, it's like almost impossible to not be influenced by other people. And I just see so many people doing interesting things where like sometimes I might be trying to like kind of mimic that technique just to like try it for myself, and then finding ways that it works with my own personal style and really changes it and takes it away from that. You talked about my dog that I made, and that was like I'm really interested in making functional objects. So like lamps have been like a weird thing that I've been really into.
The naked cat lamp. Jesus Christ. It blew my mind. I did not know that you were a sculptor on that scale, if that makes sense, because all your other work is a lot smaller, a little
Yeah.
put together, and that seemed like a very like time and effort heavy piece. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you just knocked it out, you knocked it out. But Jesus.
Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely was something that I worked on for a couple of weeks. And it was so that art show that I mentioned. It was the work I made for that art show, and it was just kind of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. They didn't give us any direction, and like I had already made that lamp of Olive, my dog, and I was just kind of like, oh, maybe I'll do something like along those lines. And my initial idea was to do a Sphinx cat with like tattoo flash on it, but then it ended up being so like weird on its own that I just didn't need to make that in addition to it. It didn't sell at the show, but I'm actually really excited because I'm trading it with another artist who I really, really like and respect. So it's just sitting in my office right now.
Yeah.
But I've been doing stuff like that for kind of on and off. Like I mentioned, like I took ceramics in college and kind of like got really into like playing with sculpture at that time, and that was a lot more character based, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I did these kind of like plush figures that I still have. Like, I can see one right now. And
it's like the cartoony kind of side coming out a little bit in the sense of like it's like it's not form perfect, not like a photorealistic type of sculpture, but it's, I don't know, it's fun.
So like when I first started playing with clay, this is like what I was doing a lot of in like 2011. So it's like these like kind of like plush characters, but with like clay feet and clay heads and stuff. So I think that like this kind of stuff influences my work like quite a bit.
Super cool.
Dude, when did you make that?
In 2011, I think 2010, 2011.
That thing, years on him.
Still looks like the first day.
Yeah.
What is it?
His cowboy boots still working just like they used to.
Cowboy Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's Cowboy Bigfoot.
Okay. All right.
You know? So you know about Cowboy Bigfoot? Come on.
Yeah, dude, I've been to the Brandon Iron. Come on.
Yeah, he's there all the time, every day.
Oh, dang. Shaina, this has been an awesome time catching up with you, man.
It's been a lovely little blast.
It really has. This has been too long in the making, man. Glad you sat down with us. I appreciate you.
When are y'all going to come out to Long Beach, this really far away place?
It takes so long on the 405, bro.
You don't even have to go on the 405 to get here.
You know what's crazy is living in San Diego all the years, it would take me longer to get to Long Beach from there, which I think is technically closer than it does living in Indio to get out there for whatever reason, just the westbound.
Wait, do you live in Indio now?
I live in La Quinta, basically Indio.
All the way out in the hot desert.
What's up, girl? 120 all summer.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Wow.
That's at my house.
Yeah, that's why I hang out in Redlands. But yeah, dude, I'm let's party.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's party. Come down.
Hey, bro, let's party.
Hey, we got a spare bedroom. There's weed in there. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell my kids.
Your students are gonna hear this.
Yeah.
My kids actually, you know what's really funny is like the first year I taught, all my kids found my band like that. And they were like, ST was in a band and you can see videos of it on the internet.
The Calicos or which band?
The Calicos.
Yeah.
And then
great music.
None of them since then have like said anything about it. If they have, they haven't said anything. So
well,
I'm like,
old news. That's old news.
Yeah.
They knew what that is.
They're like, Post Malone's not covering this.
Yeah. Oh, there's like pictures. I think like one of the first pictures that pops up if you Google my name is a picture of me like smoking a cigarette at a punk house when I was 21 or something like that. Yeah. And I look very skinny, but it is not a good look for a teacher.
I like it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We'll come down and hang out in Orange County with you. That sounds like a blast.
We're Los Angeles County. Thank you very much.
Oh.
LA County.
My bad.
It was so good chatting, you guys.
LBC.
Absolutely.
No,
good seeing you.
Yeah, sorry we had to reschedule so many times. I appreciate you like making the time for us.
Seriously, yeah.
Not at all. It was perfect.
Back and forth for the last like 2 months. It feels like Shayna's gonna do the podcast. I swear to God.
I swear to God, she will do it at some point.
She said she'd do it
at some point.
Look,
happen.
I've been really busy teaching the youth and riding horses, so I just don't have time. So
you ride horses? Is that real? You ride horses?
Yes, I ride horses.
I'm
So
out till La Quinta then. What the fuck? I'm
2
out.
times a week, I'm like,
baby.
Right?
Yep.
all right, you guys, I'll talk to you real soon.
Specifically, you want to plug as far as like where people can check
Oh,
out your work or anything
hey,
else?
yeah, get up me on Instagram at Shaina Turian. Follow me, hit me up if you want me to draw a picture of your dog. I'll do a great job. Uh, come to Long Beach, even though nobody wants to do it, and see our Makers Marts. They're gonna be really good this year. And just be my friend.
I mean,
I
Yeah,
swear I'm
no,
not scary like Jim thinks.
no, she's a great person. She's a great person. I was very confused, misunderstood as a kid. Gotcha.
Hi, Josh. I get.
Love you, Shayna.
yeah, dude.
Love you guys. It's so good to see you both.
Podcast in front of everybody.
Yeah. I'm literally just gonna drop Jim off on your doorstep and be like, you deal with him.
Yeah, you said bring him out here. Here he is.
I mean, sure.
Drunk.
Just let me know like a 24-hour notice so I can make sure there's beers to feed him.
No, for sure.
Exactly.
I'll put a little bowl outside and pour some IPA in it.
That's all I asked for.
Perfect.
Yeah. A little dry Apple Jacks and IPA. Let's go, baby.
I don't want him to get soggy. I'll mix them myself.
Oh, okay, cool. I need to hit you up, you guys, too, because I need stickers. So
Yeah,
do
let me
it.
know.
You know, we got you.
I got you.
Yeah.
We didn't even touch on all that. We could have done a
I know.
whole 5 minutes on that. Anyways, love that you're drinking wine. Love that you went in the dark. Love that you were talking with us. Love that you're a teacher. It's good talking to you, dude. I really, really.
It's so good to talk to you guys.
It's been too long. I appreciate you.
Thanks for making me feel important in what I do.
Hey, you are honestly one of the most important people that people don't realize. Art teachers are so fucking
And
needed.
one of the most talented people
That's
I think
right.
I've ever met
Killing
since
it.
we were kids.
Keep
Straight
doing
up.
your thing, girl. Keep killing it.
Oh. All right. This has been another episode.
Thank you,
of
guys. Get out of here.
We'll see you next week. You guys take care. Yeah.
Bye.
That's it. That's it. We're done.
That was great.
Oh, shit.